I'm going to start this one out a little bit different. I don't know if we've ever done this before in any episode, at least any episode I've been a part of. Okay, I'm going to issue a challenge, but I'm going to provide a backdrop first. Okay. There is this concept, and whenever something techie or whatever, I feel like tech is the biggest barrier to, people throwing their hands up and saying, "Oh, I can't do that." You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? I'm going to throw that as the backdrop to this challenge. Okay, that many people in the audience listening right now have listened to this and they agree. Yes, AI is important, but it's too techy. It's too techy for me. Even you guys talking about all of this stuff, it just feels too techy for me. Okay, so I'm going to place a 30-day time frame on this episode. Okay, and I want the collective group of us to map out what every person can in fact do over a 30-day time frame to become, I don't know if you call it AI proficient, or it wouldn't be necessarily AI native.
Yeah.
That's going to take more, but AI capable in a 30-day time frame.
What's cool about this is that the bar is not particularly high yet. Okay, so especially in our industry, if you sat 10 people down in a room, if you, those who are listening, did a handful of things, you would be in the top 10% of AI competence. Let's use that word for this conversation in that room. Okay, so the bar today, now this isn't always going to be the case, but today the bar is relatively low.
And so if you want to look like the fancy guy or gal in your office,
it's an opportunity for sure.
It's not, okay.
And it's not just looking like it. Like you can take your output, and today, just simply with the tools that exist today, at least 10x your output today.
Okay.
And at some point in the very near future, you're going to be able to 100x or even 1,000x your output.
That's massive to say. In 30 days, you can 10x. I mean, it's real.
I've placed the challenge. What are the ingredients and steps that people need to look at in order to accomplish this?
Well, so this is one of the challenges with, so there's no accelerator program for this.
Right.
Okay.
And there really can't be, because it's going to change
constantly.
Constantly.
It's constantly changing. So you can't have a static a.cre accelerator program for this sort of thing. Although there can and should and will be a program to deliver this sort of capability. And when that program happens, now the bar gets raised a bit, because the complexity of being that top 10% in the room increases, because there's resources now for that. Today, there are not really resources. So if you're listening to this and you have an interest in being that 1 out of 10 people in the room who is the most AI competent in your group, and let's further define AI competent. We're talking about commercial real estate professionals. We're not talking about technical people. So this is not becoming a machine learning expert. This is not understanding transformers. This is not understanding the underlying models themselves. You're not pre-training large language models. What you are doing is you're understanding the core components of the technology, in the same way that none of us in this room really understand electricity, let's be honest. But I think we all consider ourselves experts. We're highly competent on using electricity, okay?
With the guardrails in place, yes.
With the guardrails in place. And we know what not to do and what to do, and we know how to leverage electricity. In fact, Andrew Ng, the famous, I think he's at Stanford professor, who coined this or made this point that AI will be effectively an electricity, a utility. And I think that's absolutely true. You don't have to know how electricity exactly works.
You just need to know that you plug the thing in there and then this works.
Yeah, and to be highly competent, to be the 1 out of 10 people in the room, you ought to be able to have some tricks up your sleeve. You ought to know how to use electricity in special ways that others don't. Okay. Or you're the person that when the electricity goes out, knows where the breaker box is,
There's
knows how to flip
either the electrician
flip a
or you can
fuse.
flip the breaker,
Right.
Oh, look, I
which
flipped
is
the
magic
breaker
in my
on.
house. I go down there, I'm the man.
we all laugh, but
That's true.
you know, there's some, and again, now the bar has been sufficiently raised that to be highly confident in electricity, you know, it takes more than just having to know how to flip a breaker. But you get the analogy. Okay. So at this point in time, June 2025, how to become that 1 out of 10, the bar is relatively low. Here's what you need to do. So this assumes that you already have your large language model of choice. So you're using a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Gemini, or you've locally installed a Llama instance and you're chatting with it. Okay, so you have that baseline. You generally understand how to prompt, but now you need to get into, so first there's a knowledge piece here. So you need to understand a context window, okay? All right. You need to understand tokens. You need to know the difference between 10,000 tokens and 100,000 tokens and what 10,000 tokens is, okay? So you need to know that. So that's just some basic knowledge. It's like, okay, I need to understand AC versus DC and 120 versus 240. Okay.
Whoa, slow down there. Now you're a master electrician.
I know. 220 equals hot tub.
or a washing machine, or dryer. Yeah.
Well, I only know hot tub.
Okay, so that's the first step. It's like learn some of these basics.
Okay, listen real quick. Say them again real fast.
Well, context window, tokens. You need to understand the different types of generative models.
Okay.
Actually, you need to understand what artificial intelligence is. So artificial intelligence is, in essence, machines doing things that people do. And so we use AI. AI doesn't mean anything. In most of the conversations in 2025, AI refers to generative AI and perhaps physical AI. We talked about that.
Machine learning. Now it's moving into this generative AI.
But it's understanding what AI is, the different types of artificial intelligence. So
when AI came around, just to I wanted to get your take on this. I know the answer is like, what are context windows and all this is. Google it, figure it out.
Yeah.
I know that, but like artificial intelligence, the way I had to explain to me is like when it first came around, it was predicting language. Okay, and so we all know if I say peanut butter and
jelly,
jelly, that is a pattern that is repeated out there long enough that if you start to model all of human language, those things already exist. And if you give enough compute behind it, it can pretty much take every article written about a particular subject, assemble it, and then write it within different types of language. And that's kind of where it started.
And it's seen enough scenarios, billions and billions of scenarios, that it knows that jelly comes after peanut butter.
That's right.
And I don't even know for this exercise, be that 1 out of 10 in the room in 2025, and we're talking about large language models in that context, words, there's other types of generative models, right? You have text to image, you've got multimodal, where you can do text to, and depending on the context of the prompt, it will produce a video, it'll produce an image, it'll produce audio, it'll produce words, okay? When we say AI, we're really talking about generative, and generative is predictive. It's what should the next pixel be if it's producing an image, or what's the next frame, what should the next series of pixels that make up a frame be in the case of video, or in words, what is the next letter?
Right.
Well, what's the next 4 letters? Tokens approximately 4 letters in a word, right? So some of these basic things. Now, the reason why the baseline is you need to have a large language model is you don't need to go ask anyone this, because you have your own incredibly smart partner here that you can ask these questions to. So I'm now going to give an increasing list of things. You're going to go, well, how do I do that? You know how to use ChatGPT. Okay, so you don't ask. So once I have a baseline of knowledge, and that's a couple hours of conversations with ChatGPT, IBM Technology has this incredible series of videos on YouTube that are meant for professionals like us. They're short and they're really well done. So you find your source that will get you to that baseline of knowledge. That would be day 1. Now you've got 29 days left in this. Then it's about tinkering. In June 2025, it's about tinkering. A, because the courses don't exist out there, and B, the courses that do, if there were courses, or the courses that do exist, they become obsolete in a matter of months. Yeah. It reminded me when I was a kid where you needed a new computer every about 6 months because the technology was moving so fast. And I thankfully had a father who was very much into, hey, let's ensure that we have the latest thing. And so every 6 to 12 months, and we were not a rich family. My dad worked for the government, but he'd find a way to get us a new personal computer, and we constantly tinkered. I just grew up tinkering, me and my brothers. We just tinkered. And so that's why this AI thing is so exciting. You need to develop a skill to tinker. So tinkering means, okay, there's this whole universe of possible AI things. What are they? Google it, okay? There's this universe of AI things. Start tinkering with them. And tinkering means, I wonder if it could do something that would be of value to me. Mm. So everyone on this listening should know what V0 is. Okay, go to v0.dev, launched by a firm called Vercel. Vercel created something called Next.js, which is essentially the engine that powers like what we view on the web, okay, for lack of a better term. It's an open source project. And so Vercel, or at least the founder of Vercel, creates this Next.js thing and launches this tool called V0. And what V0 is it is a large language model that produces code that has been tuned to produce code specifically for front end, the visual development. And so anyone listening to this can go to v0.dev and type in, I want a website that calculates a value taking net operating income and dividing it by cap rate. And I want it to look like this other website, or I want it to look like this, or hey, here's a picture of what I want it to look like, or hey, I created a Figma design, I want it to look like that, whatever. Hey, you can get whatever the instructions are. And in a matter of minutes, you can watch it as it writes all the code, and then up will come your website. Okay? That's an example of a tool, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of these sorts of tools. And you go, well, what do I use that for? That's not my job. That's yours, okay? You know what you do on a day-to-day basis better than I do, but you have things that you do every day. How might that be useful to you? In a real estate context, there's things, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be real estate because it's about tinkering at this stage. And so what do you find fun? It's like I've got a fantasy football league. And what would be cool is to display on our own custom web app the results every week. You can build that right now. Someone listening to this, on day 3 of this 30-day thing, using V0 plus a Supabase backend, you can build that, okay? You can play with Lovable. Lovable is a competitor to V0. Its capabilities are slightly different, but effectively it's a competitor. You can build web apps with Lovable. Bolt.new is another one that you can do it. There's others that are popping up. Now, most of the website builders are in order to compete, are having to come up with their own AI builders. So Framer now has their own AI wireframer. So Framer is a tool to build really cool websites. You can build now a website with Framer's AI tool. So you no longer have to know how to use something like Framer. Use their AI tool. So the next step is scour the world of AI tools. Find 5 that look interesting to you and begin tinkering with them and create something that is valuable to you and only to you. Don't worry about anyone else, just to you. Okay, so call that from day 2 to day 15, you're tinkering. Now the last 15 days is to build tools that are valuable to others. Okay, and why this is important is now you're thinking beyond your specific use cases. You're putting yourself in the mind of others, which requires just a different level of thinking. You're also putting yourself now in the role of a teacher, because day 15 to day 25, you're building for other people, and day 26 to day 30, you're teaching others how to use it.
Can I back up and ask you a question about tinkering? All the things you mentioned, so it sounds like the recommendations thus far are build apps. it feels like. So what is that like? You know, you go to Lovable, you go to, I mean, these are all, I mean, which, by the way, we could never do before, you know, at the touch of
Well, let me give you a few other examples. So N8N is a workflow builder. Okay, now it's not exactly generative AI, but you can now integrate AI into that. Or Zapier now has the ability to integrate AI into a workflow. Why I like the coding AI is because you're truly simply prompting and out comes output. Where with something like an N8N or a Gumloop or a Lindy, you're creating automations and they're valuable. And I'm not saying don't do that, but it's not AI in the way that most of us think. Most of it's not generative. Most of it is very linear. It's this happens, then that happens. It's more like building an Excel model, which is good, but that's not like the next step, the next level of where you're going, right? So I would recommend more of like a generative experience.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
So before, I by the way, I think all the recommendations are great. I'm wondering, in your opinion, before jumping into a Lovable or into vo.dev, does it v0.dev? Does it make more sense to like start out trying to make like a GPT or a gem or a project or something like that?
So that's why I say with the universe of things that you could tinker with right now feel endless. And so those are the ones I like to tinker with because you see really amazing things at the end of it. But yeah, you could absolutely build a custom GPT or a Claude project.
The benefit of building one of those things is if you go through and you're having conversations with ChatGPT and you say, hey, I want to make a GPT, walk me through the process. It's going to teach you, like, okay, first we need to assemble a knowledge base for this one thing. Then we need to define what it is so we can create the instructions. And that's the prompt, right? And so okay, well, every GPT, if it's a good one for the most part, has a knowledge base, has a prompt. I put those together, and then once I click create, I can do things with it. I did that, for example. I was tired of writing emails for our sales team, so I said, okay, I create one that says write like Sam, and I gave it, a Google Drive of, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 emails I had written. I had it define my style. I had to do all these different things, and then boom, now I don't write emails anymore.
So that is valuable. That is valuable, and I think that would be a worthwhile tool. My recommendation, though, if you want to be one of the 10, is so what you're doing when you build a custom GPT is you're essentially building an agent. Okay, so you're providing it unique instructions. We call that the system prompt. You're giving it some unique knowledge. In the case of a custom GPT, you can upload up to 20 files. You perhaps give it some, they call it in a custom GPT, actions. Claude doesn't have this as far as I'm aware, where you can connect it to outside resources. In the context of the agentic world, that's called a tool.
When you say that GPT can do that, but through the API.
You can give your custom GPT access to third-party resources.
You're talking about like...
they're called actions in a custom GPT.
Give me an example.
Like Google Drive or...
Let's say that you want your custom GPT to put the output of its results into a Google Sheet.
Got it. Okay.
So you could connect it to Google Sheet using an action. In an agentic context, those are called tools.
Got it.
Okay? And so that would absolutely be worthwhile. What I would recommend is that you go get a DigitalOcean account. It'd actually be cheaper, believe it or not. Go get a DigitalOcean account and create your first AI agent. It's the same thing, but it's a bit more powerful. And because the tinkering in that it requires you to maneuver a bit more nuance, and that nuance you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn more from. You're in such a guarded environment with a custom GPT that you often lose. Like you don't get that instructions are actually feeding a system prompt. When you build an agent, say with DigitalOcean, you control the entire system prompt. So you need to do things like, I'm going to put a jailbreak in because I don't want people to access my knowledge base. I'm going to put some moderating in. OpenAI does that for you in a custom GPT.
And then the way that you figure that out is you have a conversation over here with ChatGPT and say, I am doing this thing over in here. And
Spencer says, go create an AI agent with DigitalOcean, you don't need to come and ask me how to do that. You've got ChatGPT. Go ask it.
Yeah. It's
Say,
the
hey,
best
I want to
feature
create
you
an
can
AI
have.
agent with DigitalOcean, and turn on web search, because these things are happening so quickly. You want ChatGPT to access the web to answer that question, not its own knowledge base, which is outdated. But yeah, you create your first AI agent. It's incredibly simple. When you do it at first, you're like, oh, well, is there more to it? No, there's not more to it. But then it's like, okay, well, I want it to have some special knowledge. I need some special knowledge, then I need to give it a knowledge base. In order to give it a knowledge base, I need to parse the knowledge, put that knowledge in a format that my agent can fully understand. Well, I then go to ChatGPT, hey, what are my options for this? Well, I could just simply upload it into a knowledge base with DigitalOcean. It will index that, but it's going to index whatever I give. What if I could parse it in a way that would be more readable? And so then all of a sudden I'm over at Llama Index, uploading a PDF file and parsing it in a way to make my output slightly
And when
better.
people say, what does parse mean? You say?
Organizing it in a way for.
I thought you were going to say
go to ChatGPT.
Well, that's, yeah.
Go to ChatGPT and say. That's
Well,
what I thought. you were
But
gonna
that's the thing. So there's a prompting to it too, which is if you're building this on DigitalOcean and you need access to various things, that's a prompt to ChatGPT.
Yes.
You're like, I need to know what's the best LLM. This is what I want to do. Is like you're saying, go to Llama Index and have it. It's
Yeah, it's like, okay, and so you'll get better and better at using ChatGPT or any of these large language models for these sorts of exercises simply by doing it.
I will say, just for all of the can't treat, teach an old dog new tricks people, my first things that I created were not good. They were fine. They were impressive. Like, I was like, oh wow, that's fancy. That's really good.
Yeah.
But none of them I use today, right?
Mhm.
But now anything that I create is really good.
Yeah.
And it all came because
you're
just
on your way to your
tinker.
10,000 hours.
Yeah, you just keep tinkering.
Well, yeah, 10,000 hours. And I think it's funny because a lot of these solutions that you're talking about becoming AI capable, or what are we calling it? Is it capable?
Well, AI native is what
I know
we
that's
all
what we're
want.
aiming for, but we're talking about the next 30 days.
That 1 out of the 10 right now is going to be in most groups of 10 in commercial real estate, 1 out of 10 that's AI capable.
You're going to find out that AI is a lot more intuitive than it is complex, right?
Yeah.
Like, meaning, hey, if I can ask this thing anything. Oh, I'm going to ask it how to do this over.
And I assume, I mean, if they're listening or watching this, they're at that. You are absolutely at that level already, and many already may be tinkering. This tutorial, for lack of a better term, is for those who have an interest in becoming the 1 out of 10 in the room. And if there was a title for this episode, it'd be "Tinkering Your Way to Mastery of AI" or something like that. Because right now we are in a place where that's how you get there. By the way, when you look at any wave of technology, the people who win are those who were there at the very beginning.
Yeah, first movers.
Before there were courses, before there were degrees, before there were experts, and they became experts through tinkering.
Yeah.
I love the story of Bill Gates. The reason why he became what he was is he was at one of the only high schools that had a computer.
No, he went to, I think his one of his parents was a professor. I could be getting this wrong, at University of Washington, and he would go, him and his friends, every day after school, I believe.
But so I may be getting it wrong, but the point is he had access to a computer, but other kids had access to a computer too in his peer group. But he chose to go and tinker. Every single day after school, he'd go and he'd tinker. And so we are at a moment right now where those who have the interest in tinkering have a massive advantage.
All right, so I'm here. I'm listening to this episode. I got my notebook, my pencil. I'm trying to get through my 1 through 30 days. Let's give a recap, if we can, of where we started on our journey.
Yeah. So
wherever you're watching, or if you are watching this, there will be a written recap of it, so it can get listed. But go ahead.
No, and look, this isn't like a recipe where if you put in a cup of sugar instead of half cup, it turns out wrong. But your first day or two is just get a baseline on the tech, so you you know the key components. That's
And get a paid account. Get a paid ChatGPT account. Don't.
well, that's like obvious. So then call it day 3 through 5 is getting an understanding of what tools are out there and beginning just like tinkering and finding out, okay, which ones are most approachable or intuitive for me. The next 10 days are about that is like a tinkering phase where nothing works, but you're trying to build something for yourself. And at the end of the 10th day, you've built something for yourself that's cool. May not be useful to anyone else, probably isn't, but you've built something for you that is helpful. And hopefully you've built several things in different tools so you have some breadth. The next 10 days, it gets you through day 25, are building for others. Okay, so that's now me understanding Michael's requirements. And because I have now a sense of what tools are out there, I can then take Michael's requirements, I can pick a tool, I could try to build for it. It won't work. I'll try a different tool. It maybe will work a little bit. I'll play around. And I also have gone to Sam, and Sam has a different use case because he comes from a different place. And I'm building tools for a couple different people. And at the end of then day 25, now it's my job to come back to you guys and teach you how to build a tool. And the last 5 are teaching. And at the end of that 30 day, now I've taught you, I've tinkered, I built something that's useful for myself, I built something useful for you, and then I've taught you how to build it yourself.
There is something pretty magical that happens when you teach something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that not many people talk about, but as soon as you put it out in words, for whatever reason, it just connects a lot of dots.
Well, in that room of 10 people, by the way, first you built a competence, but also the fact that you taught other people in the room how to do that, you now, in their mind, are the
expert.
The expert.
Yeah, you're the pro. There you go. There's your 30-day challenge. I think it's, well, first off, this is a fun episode because if you're pulled over on the side of the road, you're like taking notes. You know, that's totally awesome. I would encourage everybody to go do it, get after it.
We're going to run this transcript through ChatGPT and then have it produce the best.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because as just like a final little thing, whenever I create a YouTube video, I have this little add-on, this plugin in my browser. I click the button. It gives me a summary of the entire episode or video I just shot, and it gives me timestamps. I just copy and paste, put it over in the detail section of the video, and boom, I have chapters. It took that used to take forever.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to be like, okay, here I talk about this, there I talk about this, and I put it in this format. Yeah. I don't do that. I'll copy and paste, boom, done.
Remember the first time we did the a.cre audio series when you were
I was
record
taking notes as we were doing it.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, yeah, because I was like, we're gonna end up recording hours and hours and hours of this. I don't want to go back, and so I had a notepad. I was like, okay, at minute 7:36, this thing.
Yeah,
I do remember that. It's funny
that was only 5 years ago.
That was only 5 years ago.
Crazy.
So imagine where we are 5 years from now.
Incredible. All right.
It's a good one.
See you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Adventures in CRE audio series. For show notes and additional resources, head over to www.adventuresincre.com/audio series.